chest. You could beat the world, you could beat the war. You could talk to God, go banging on his door. You could throw your hands
What's
up,
up, everybody?
move a mountain, you can break rocks.
Welcome to Highland Park Live Interactive Webinar. It's so great to see you. A lot of people registered for tonight's call. I so love it. We are very excited for what's in store for you today. I'm sure you are going to be inspired and you will get a lot of great tips and value for our topic tonight. Let me introduce myself. My name is Lizelle. I'm the Customer Service and Sales Manager here at Highland Park Lapidary. We are grateful for you to being here with us tonight. Thank you for always showing up. And we wanted to say hello and welcome as well to all our customers and followers that are streaming with us live, both our Facebook and YouTube channel. Thank you for always tuning in with us. So guys, if you are brand new to this call or new to the Highland Park Elite community or new to the lapidary arts, if you are starting, please put new on the chat. We wanted to welcome you all. I see our finance manager here. Hello, welcome, Kat. All right.
Good to see you, Kat. Just explain the controls for them.
Yes, on the chat box, you can put new there. Hi, Carrie. Welcome. All right, please don't be shy. Come on. All right, who are new? Beverly, I see you. Hello, Bryce. I think this is the first time I see you. Welcome. Deb, hello, welcome. Cliff, hi. All right, thank you guys. So we created this avenue for you so we can share knowledge, get tips and tricks, and to network and to collaborate with your fellow lapidary artists. Most especially get direct access and information from John and Sherman Rowland. So we wanted to make sure that you take full advantage of that. All right, tonight we are so humbled and so honored to have our guest speaker here with us again. No other than Bill Boggs of the William Holland School of Lapidary Arts. Last week, he's all into introduction and answered a lot of your questions. Tonight, he will discuss in-depth process on stone Intarsia. So for your questions, you can raise your hand by going into our reaction icon at the bottom part of your Zoom and click raise hand, or you can also post your questions via chat. Okay, let's give our hands to our CEO, John Rowland, and General Manager, Sherman Rowland, together with our guest speaker, Bill Boggs, to kick off tonight's Highland Park 25th live interactive webinar with our intro video. All right. And before we proceed to our main content tonight, we wanted to take this opportunity to greet our dynamic and hardworking CEO who just celebrated his birthday 2 days ago. John, happy birthday. And the Highland Park team prepared something special for you.
We have a little special for you.
Oh, no.
On that video. birthday, dude. Wishing you a really great birthday. And we really appreciate you for all the things you do to help the team achieve their personal and professional goals. And we're behind you 100% in succeeding in your vision for Highland Park Lapidary. I think he's a little red. You got some embarrassed there, dude.
Pretty cool. 39 years, right?
30,
Yeah.
almost 40 now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd give a lot of money to be 40 again.
Yeah. That's for sure. That's for sure.
Hey, let's introduce Christine.
Well, let's pull up Christine. Yeah, we got to introduce Christine. I'll pin her up here. I can't. I don't have any control. Christine. So this is Christine.
Hello.
She's the executive director of the William Holland School of Lapidary Arts in Georgia. And certainly last week we talked about that. I know a lot of you that are on this call have been there, and they have a terrific reputation, and their programs are ridiculously affordable. Like, you got no excuse not to go. And so they're definitely, when you told me the price, I'm like, and that's room and board included, that's ridiculous. So we'll cover that a little bit later, but we're a huge fan of education, and they're really one of the premier schools in the country. I know there's some other schools up in on the West Coast as well. It's really important that we support the lapidary schools and the instructors there that are really donating their time. So Bill's one of those instructors who's been teaching the the Intarsia program. And of course, I was speaking to one of the gentlemen who was actually the inventor of a machine that was used called Alsasona today. He's 95 years old, and he was talking about how he was laying brick and cutting boards for building the original facility. So pretty cool. A lot of people's work went into that. So anyway, Christine, we're going to probably pull you up when we talk to programs. We may touch base on that a little bit.
All
on
right.
that.
Sure.
Why don't we get started first? Like, we had one video on the kind of the layout, if I remember correctly, Bill and John. There's one more video we're going to go into, kind of one or two, kind of setting up, and then we're going to get into a whole lot of hands-on stuff. So get ready with your questions, because you can get a lot of those answered right here. Just put them in the chat. We'll make sure we're going to capture it. We'll make sure we answer all of them. So Joanna, you want to roll that next video?
Now we repeat the previous process and mark the remaining surfaces to be glued with a pencil, and then gently grind the pencil marks away, thereby ensuring completely flat glue surfaces. Here's the piece after the sides were flattened and then glued together. Using the Intarsia grinder, we now remove the overlapped ends of the newly attached border strips. After this, we are ready to begin attaching the next set of borders. To create the outer border in our example, the slab of black material is marked and then cut into strips of the correct length with a trim saw. Following the steps previously described, all of the sides of the piece are ground flush, parallel, and even. Then we are ready for gluing the black strips on. This shows the piece after the first two black border strips have been attached with super glue. After the final two border strips have been attached, the overlapped ends are again removed with the Intarsia grinder. At this point, the Intarsia is nearly complete. With everything held together with super glue, the only remaining step is to attach a backing with epoxy and thereby secure all of the construction together. Now it's time to attach a backing to the Intarsia construction. Select a slab of material that is larger than the Intarsia piece and mark trim saw lines slightly beyond the perimeter of the Intarsia. If available, it's best to use a thin slab for the backing. While a thick backing slab will work okay, it will eventually need to be thinned down considerably to make the finished piece lighter, more useful, and overall more presentable. In our example, I've selected a piece of black basanite for the backing that is identical to the outer border of the Intarsia. In general, whenever possible, I prefer to make the backing out of the same material as the outer border. It's just an added level of design refinement that seems to make the finished piece more pleasing to the eye. Now, with that said, the job of the backing is primarily meant to be functional so as to increase the overall structural integrity of the piece. Most people will not even be looking at the backing anyway. Here we can see the result of a couple steps. The backing slab has been cut to the proper shape with a trim saw, and the two surfaces that will be glued together with epoxy have been marked with pencil in preparation for grinding them both flat. To flatten the backing piece and the back of the Intarsia construction, it's generally more efficient to use a flat lap with a 100 grit lap installed. You can use the Intarsia grinder for this step, but these are broad, flat surfaces which can typically take more time to flatten. In preparation for the epoxy, wipe the two flattened surfaces with acetone and then set them on wax paper or other nonstick surface. I find it convenient just to mix the epoxy right on the backing piece, but you can mix it elsewhere and transfer it to the backing piece. It's very, very important that the epoxy be mixed well, and just to make sure, my rule of thumb is always 1 minute. After the epoxy has been thoroughly mixed, set the Intarsia onto the glue-covered backing piece. Then press down on the piece and move it around to squish out as much of the epoxy as possible, and making certain that there are no areas without glue. I'm a firm believer that more is better, so to make sure all surfaces have glue coverage, I never scrimp on the amount of epoxy I use. After you finish this process, allow 3 to 4 hours curing time before proceeding. After the epoxy has cured, if you have an excess of backing material extending beyond the Intarsia border, you may want to carefully trim some of it off with a trim saw. At this point, you're almost done. All that remains is to take your piece and finish it up on the cabbing machine. It was a lot of work and took many steps, but it was worth it.
That's good. That's good. So we had a couple of questions on these different steps, Bill, and let's see. So John Warhank was asking, customer asked if he can use epoxy steel for the backing instead of a black adhesive that was mentioned in the first part of the webinar. Epoxy steel. Wonder.
That's like JB Weld.
Like JB Weld.
Yeah, you could probably use that. I know. I mean, that's kind of what they use on the back of a lot of the turquoise you see. It'll probably work as long as you can make sure it's thick enough, not just a real thin layer.
Yeah, I mean it's strong stuff. Bill was saying, please explain applying the backing to your lapidary stone. I think we just did that pretty well in the video because he posted that a little earlier. So Bill, if you got another question on that, like post it again, but I think you saw the steps where you did the grinding flat and you used that pencil technique, right, Bill? So that, when you actually mate those together, it's good. Yeah. And Bill said, yeah, good. And then Wayne says, where can I purchase an Intarsia grinder? We'll talk about that a little later. We got some ideas on that. Bill starts laughing. And then Sandy says, Sandy actually asked a question. John answered this, but I yelled at him. So we answer it live. So, cause somebody might not get it. So Sandy's saying, hey, I got a Genie has an option for adding a 6-inch flat lap to it vertically. Can I use this at this time? And I think, John, you said, yes, it's probably as ideal because you don't have that shelf and some of that functionality. Bill, do you want to weigh on that? Because you got a long history on this.
Well, I learned to do Intarsia on a flat lap. I mean, this was back in the late 90s, and there wasn't any Intarsia machines around. And if you think about it, for hundreds of years, if not longer, people have been doing something akin to a flat lap to make these amazing Intarsias you see in museums.
Right.
With a little practice, you can get really, really good at it. But that's what it takes, practice. You just have to be able to hold the piece up on the flat lap at a 90-degree angle, and that's the difficulty. But after some practice, you get pretty good at it.
Mhm. Right. And then Tony was saying, if you have a translucent center stone, would you still want a backing?
Probably not. Probably not. Unless,
Well, let me
in general, no.
let me add
There's-
a little bit of comment there, because you see a lot of people doing like they'll take like a tube agate and back it with turquoise.
Yeah.
So it kind of depends on what you want it to look like.
Yeah, that's true. I was going to say something to that effect, John. I mean, some people have done things such as put some aluminum foil behind it or something to give it some reflective feature. But if you have something that you just flat want to see through it, there's a situation where you may pick up a piece of picture jasper and you look at the one surface and you say, boy, that's beautiful. And you turn it over and you say, boy, that's beautiful. Now, which side do you use? And in a lot of cases, you want to use both. So there's an answer to that. And what I found is that if you super glue everything, and then when you get ready to put that final border around it, you epoxy that. That's the solution I always suggest in classes when people come up and want a double-sided piece of Intarsia. And I think that would satisfy the gentleman's question here with the translucent things.
Right.
Let me say something about translucent material, though. Some people try to use things like rose quartz as a border, and translucent materials as borders don't work very well because you can see the adjacent material through it. It sounds like a good idea when you're designing it in your head, but it just doesn't work that well.
Right. And Richard had also added to that, about, how about using clear glass for blacking if you want it translucent? And I could do that, or even like some dichro glass, like what Bart was showing. I mean, there's a number of different things you could do. I mean, obviously it depends on what you want to do. On that.
You can
Matt
use clear.
Got
You can use clear glass on the front too, and make sort of a triplet out of it.
Yeah.
People have done that.
Yeah. Matt was saying, is there any Intarsia fixative or glue?
I don't, other than the two glues we talked about, some kind of a cyanoacrylate or epoxy. That's the only two glues that we use.
I don't think anything makes anything particular for Intarsia.
Last week, I think we talked about the Loctite 43903.
Yeah.
So I maybe that having something a little bit more specific is what he's looking for.
That's just what I use. Whoa, it's a gel here. Let me get rid of this.
Just put it, use.
Yeah, it's a gel.
And you can get that in a lot of places. It's pretty common. Yeah.
It's really not a very high-tech solution either. It's just got a little tube inside.
Yeah.
Little like a toothpaste tube with
stand up.
It makes it look bigger though.
Yeah, it does. Works fine.
Yeah. Sandy says, you said hard plastic. I mean, you could. I think just the issue there is potential scratches. depending on, you know, how the piece is being used or if it's being worn or things like that, right, Bill?
Yeah. Yep.
Well, let's go to this. Do we have any other of these? Like, let's go to the next video because I forget what the next video is, Joanna. All right.
Hi, I'm Bill Boggs. I teach Intarsia classes at William Holland School in Young Harris, Georgia. Instructors have been doing demos of their various projects, and I thought I'd give it a shot. I'm going to do several things. I'm going to do some real basic Intarsia that was motivated by a friend stopping by my lab a couple weeks ago and tossed out some ideas. And then we're going to talk about process of drilling holes in Intarsia to inlay circles. There's several ways to do that, and I'm going to cover two of them. Pretty simple, and we'll get started shortly. So a couple weeks ago, some friends were over visiting, and they asked to take a tour of my work area. And it so happened I'd just an Intarsia project, and I had some scraps laying out on my table. Actually, I got scraps all over the place, but be that as it may. But I had these sugilite and lapis scraps. This is reconstituted material. And we were just chatting, and I was explaining things to him, and I noticed that one of the ladies was over here playing around with these scraps and arranging them in different ways, and just seemed kind of interested in it. And I asked her what she was doing. She says, well, you know, says, I could see you could kind of just put these things together and make an interesting kind of a abstract design pendant. So I said, well, sure. And we started talking, and make a long story short, I told him that I'd go ahead and do something for him. I'd put together a piece. And so, which I did. I ended up doing this, which I'm going to, in this video, I'm going to explain how the steps of how I went through that. One of the ladies did some wire wrap, and she asked that if I'd drill a hole in it, which I did. And then I started thinking, well, let me go ahead and expand on this project some. So I decided to expand this in some different directions. I did two different variations here, with the sugilite on the outside and the lapis inside, sugilite on the inside and lapis outside. And my intent here is I'm going to drill a hole into the center of these and inlay some material. And one of them, I'm going to inlay this it's laminated abalone. It's about, 1/8 of an inch thick. It's very nice to work with. It's wonderful for inlay. I buy it from a place. In fact, let me show you over here. This is I buy it in these slabs from this outfit called Mazecraft, and I learned of them through Rich Williams. And Mazecraft, one of their primary customers are people that make knife handles. So they sell this. It's kind of pricey, but a lot of it goes a long way. And they've got all kinds of other reconstituted and synthetic material. Here's kind of my stash of stuff. In fact, here's the sugilite that I'm going to take a slab off of. And then this is the dark lapis. It's got pyrite in it, and we've got some lighter lapis. But anyway, we're going to do these projects and hopefully give you some insight as to how circles are inlaid into not just Intarsia, but stones, into jewelry.
Why don't we roll that next video? We'll just keep rolling here. chainsaw in the background?
Now you're still using the 180 grit on this?
Yes. Of course, those laps always start out at 180, but after a while, they're less.
Right.
Yeah.
I prefer to use Loctite brand super glue, the gel variety. It gives you a little bit of extra working time, and the applicator is really easy to use. Regular thin super glue works just fine. In fact, some people prefer it. The only thing to keep in mind is that when using a thin super glue, after you've applied it to the surface to be glued, as soon as you bring it in contact with the other surface, they will immediately adhere. There's no second chances. Now that we have the pieces glued together and created the Intarsia preform, we're ready to polish. Since I've glued these together with super glue, the next step would normally be to attach a backing to it with epoxy. In this case, though, I think we can forego the backing. We've got large, broad glue surfaces, and I'm going to be drilling a hole through the top of this for a bail to secure it together. Plus, the material is extremely light, so I think we can get away without a backing in this case. However, the next two pieces that I'll be demonstrating, to polish this Intarsia, we've got two basic choices, a flat lap or a multi-wheel grinder like the Genie. We'd choose a flat lap if we wanted to have absolutely dead flat surfaces with sharp squared off edges. Probably the only downside to using a flat lap to polish this is that it just takes a little longer because you have to swap out the laps as you go through the grits, whereas on a multi-wheel grinder you can just step down to the next wheel. I've chosen to finish this piece up on my multi-wheel grinder, which is a Pixie. But you can use a Genie or any other wheeled grinder. Just keep in mind that you're trying to polish a flat surface with round wheels. So you need to approach this with a light touch. Also, since this is reconstituted material, it tends to be a little softer, so a light touch is extra important here. Normally now you'd run it through all the grits, but since this is a relatively soft material, I actually started with the 600 and ran up to the 3000. And then I jumped over to my polishing buffer with a muslin wheel and finished it up with ZAM. Well, I guess we ought to go with something a little bit smaller. I like to use diamond core drills. This is a 1.5 millimeter drill that I ordered from Rio Grande. This is a light duty drill press vise that I ordered through Amazon, I believe. It's made of a non-rusting metal and it's got plastic jaws in it, so it's real gentle on the material that you place in it. And the main thing is I don't have to worry about anything rusting because I'm always hosing it down with water when I'm drilling. Okay, we're done with that piece now. Let's proceed
All right,
ahead.
just stop right
talk
there.
about the
So I got some questions here. So I think we answered the question on the Sandy's question around hard plastic. So Richard, reconstituted is material that is essentially ground up, epoxy together, and it's like it's made out of, say, lapis or whatever, but it's actually, how would you just give a good technical description of reconstituted, John?
Well, it's basically going to be the stone mixed with epoxy. So the advantages of it are that it's not as easy to chip. It's consistent all the way through. So like when you saw Bill drilling it, he doesn't have to worry about it blowing out the back as much as if you drill a piece of a natural turquoise and you try and go all the way through the hole, you got to be really careful, or better yet, set it on another slab when it goes to break through, or it's going to pop out a little divot on the back side of your hole.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So, and then Wayne was asking a question: do you think particular problems will result if making Intarsia leaving off the backing material and then cutting it for fit in channel inlay?
Well, if you were going to channel inlay, I don't think you'd need to put a backing on it.
Yeah.
Right. Yep. All right. And then Rick was asking, the pieces that you're gluing together without a backing, are those of equal hardness? I think in this case, they're reconstituted, so they probably are fairly equal hardness.
Yeah.
And then Keith or Elena was saying, what is the drill bit again? So there's a little cord drill bit that you were using there.
Yeah, I think that was a 1.5.
Yeah, we got to get you hooked up with an ultrasonic drill, man. Game changer. I know Richard's on here. Richard's like, damn, I don't want to do the drilling. He's doing ultrasonic drilling. And that is just friggin' wicked fast. So, and then Matt was asking a question: what's the best method for what's the best method for finishing Intarsia? I guess that would depend on the stone, right?
Yeah, you just got to, when you get it all glued up, you just got to kind of close your eyes and say, this is an Intarsia, this is a slab that I'm getting ready to cab. And you use your cabbing skills. And in most cases, well, at least most cases that I've demonstrated here, they're basically square cabs, which you treat things a little differently than you would a normal oval cab. But other than that, nothing special.
Anything you want to add there, John?
Well, certainly different materials. So like Bill said, I would treat it just like you're cutting a cab. If you have combined materials, like if you set a jasper with a turquoise center, then obviously you have to treat it with some care and not just lean into it like the whole thing's jasper where you're going to undercut your turquoise. So
right,
it does require some care and finesse, and if you're new to it, you just work slower.
You have to be aware of the hardnesses of the stone. We said last week that, at least in my opinion, in my experience, different hardnesses of stones didn't make a difference. But the caveat there is that I understand that they are different. So I'm taking additional care to make sure that I don't push too hard and, like John says, undercut. You'll end up with you'll have a concave surface where that turquoise was.
Right. No, absolutely. Wayne, Bruce was asking, what other ways can you make a pendant from a piece? He doesn't have a drill press, so doesn't have the ability to drill to either put a bale down in it. Any other strategies there?
Well, if you have access to a Dremel, that's kind of how I mean, I didn't always have a drill press. And in fact, I still use a Dremel to drill holes if it's, or a Fordham, unless it's, this is a pretty long hole that I drilled. So I wanted to make sure it's a long hole in a thin piece of material. So I wanted to make sure it was absolutely straight. So I would really hesitate to do that with a handpiece, but unless
especially if you're going all the way through, because you might come out slightly, I mean, a lot of times we're doing longer pieces, we're going to come in one side, come in the other side and intersect. Like if you got a barrel bead or something long like that, you want your intersection in the middle. That's hidden. So Bruce is like, I'm too old to do it by hand. We have ultrasonic drills. They're very fast. So one of the things also, like for learning a lot of this stuff, this is where the school is super, super relevant. Bill's class, I have not taken Bill's class. I do intend to take Bill's class because I love this stuff. But this is the place that you can learn, like be immersed in a week, go and deep dive on all the techniques and processes for being able to do that. So that's something. How long do the programs run this year till? When you guys, like November?
Yeah.
So
generally the first week in November is the last week. Yeah.
Right. Our last week starts on November 6th.
Yeah, put up the link of the pages of the classes so people can take a photo of that, and the link in the chat for the school guys. And somebody had a question about the website, finding out information about classes, and a little bit confused on the website navigation. I saw that earlier in the chat. And I know you guys have been doing some updates on that, so they might have experienced an update, middle of an update. Because I've gone to the website, it's pretty straightforward to find it. But put the links in the chat, guys, and because there's good information there, you can look at what's available in terms of courses and things like that. Make sure that if you go to the website link, that's going to take you, and then the registration link's a different link. I think those are correct. Maybe you double check those.
I don't think that registration is correct.
Well, we compress them. We compress them down. So don't worry about the URL. These are actually, we compress them so they actually are not 6 lines on the chat.
And if, just so they know, if they go to the lapidaryschool.org and click on the classes link, it will automatically redirect them to the registration page. So
Okay. Is
they
there a
don't
way
have to
that they can
remember
go
that.
navigate through the classes easily and kind of look at what each class is?
Yes. You just put in the season, which is 2022, and then you can search by date. You can search by medium. So if you just want to look for Intarsia classes, you can put Intarsia and it'll just pull up the Intarsia classes. Or you can search by date. If there's a certain week you want to come and you want to see what dates, what's offered that week, you can put that in as well.
Yeah. All right. Excellent. All right. Wayne had a clarification question. He says, to clarify, channel inlay pieces are quite thin, so Intarsia without backing might fracture when grinding without backing.
No, because I don't think so, because you've epoxied it into the channel.
In your piece. Yeah. And this might be an interesting thing, when you talked about the person you introduced us to that does tons of the channel inlay. She may, if we can get her on here, she may be able to really also further give details on that. Nikki had a question. She says, do you find that acetone leaves a film when cleaning pieces? Bart had mentioned using whitening to clean glass pieces before gluing his Dicro glass Intarsia.
Yeah, that was news to me. But he's going for really optical clear work, and we're generally working with non-translucent or opaque material, so that's not really a concern.
Yeah. Well, and I wouldn't be using the acetone on the reconstituted stuff.
It's exactly what I was going to say. It'd be some bad results. So to explain that, if you use the acetone on reconstituted pieces, what would happen?
It starts to dissolve it.
Because acetone is going to break the
because
epoxy.
the basis is epoxy, and acetone will dissolve epoxy.
Right.
So use alcohol.
Yep. Good. Well, let's roll the next video there, Joanna.
Let's proceed ahead and talk about the main subject of this video, which is how to inlay circles into Intarsia. Two basic methods of inlaying circles will be discussed. They both involve the use of core drills, but these are larger core drills than we use to drill the bead hole with. The core drills that I used to do this project, I actually found at a rock show some years ago, but I looked recently, and you can find these on Amazon and some of the lapidary stores too. The company is SE, which is a company from China, and they make a variety of different sizes of hole saws or core drills. This process ends up being straightforward and easy to repeat. The only downside is it really depends on you being able to find a set, 2 core drills, that one of them will create a hole and the second one will create a plug that fits exactly into that hole. So that usually takes a little trial and error, and that's how I ended up learning this. And it does confine you to a pretty strict design constraints. So like the holes on both of these pieces that I've shown you are identical in size. Okay, the holes we drilled into the reddish brown material was just to demonstrate the process. I picked a relatively soft material to do this with. And so now what we'll do is we'll take one of our finished Intarsia pieces with the sugilite and lapis, and we'll use this process to drill a hole and create a plug of a different material and insert it in. And then after we get done with that will finish the explanation of this methodology of doing round circle inlays in a piece and then we'll move on to the other process, which is a lot more flexible.
Joanna, is the next video going to actually go into the drilling? I know we cut some of that drilling out from the example piece just from time. Go ahead and run that next video.
This second project, by carefully measuring and then marking exactly where we're going to be drilling the hole to inlay the circle. The core drill we'll use here is roughly 9.2 millimeters in diameter. The head of the drill has 2 slots directly across from each other. We'll use these 2 slots to line up with the vertical line that we previously drew. This will help us center the hole in the middle of the Intarsia piece. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, start your engines. The core drills are hollow, and this makes it easy to remove the plug of material. Now we'll get set up to drill out a plug of the abalone material that will be inlaid into the hole that we just previously drilled into the Intarsia. This core drill is about 12.5 millimeters in diameter, and it will create an approximate 9.2 millimeter plug, which should pretty closely fit into the hole that we just drilled. Well, it turns out these Chinese core drills are not precision instruments. However, just a little bit of work with the diamond file and I was able to get the plug to fit right in the hole that we drilled. Making slight adjustments with hand tools is not too unusual with this method. We ended up with a nice tight fit here with no visible gaps. If it looks like you're going to end up with some gaps, there's some fairly easy ways to deal with this. Whether it's a gap in an Intarsia or a gap in any other lapidary project that you're working on. The trick is to get some powder from one of the adjacent materials involved in the joint. By the way, you can generate some of this powder by using a diamond file and some matching rough material. Then you mix this powder in with the epoxy that you're using to glue the plug into the background piece. After the epoxy dries and you finish polishing the piece, you'll find that all the materials will blend together and the gap won't be noticeable at all. After the inlay circle is glued in, it's time to prepare the backing. We're using basanite or black basalt for a backing. Grind one side of the backing flat and grind the back side of the Intarsia flat and get ready to glue them up with epoxy. As soon as the epoxy cures, we'll grind and polish this and we'll be done with it. Now we've demonstrated one method of inlaying circles, and if you have the right set of core drills, you can easily replicate this process numerous times in different pieces of Intarsia or any other stone. In the worst case, you might need to do a little hand filing to get the circle plug to fit tightly within the hole, but overall this is a very straightforward and easily repeatable process. All that said, the next process I'm going to show you is much more flexible, and it's really kind of the accepted method that most people use for inlaying circles. This process will apply whether you're inlaying relatively large circles or something as small as a dot of inlay material. Incidentally, this whole notion of inlaying one type of stone material within another is frequently referred to as a stone-in-stone process. Although our focus here is inlaying stone material, the basic process works just as well with other materials such as wood inlay. Furthermore, you can also inlaying stone within wood and or wood within stone. The method we're going to examine now will make it extremely easy to reduce the possibility of gaps when inlaying circles. Furthermore, it will not require any follow-up hand filing to get a good fit. The secret of this process is that we'll be making cones. This is conceptually what we'll be doing. In the diagram, the blue plane represents the slab of material that we just drilled a hole into, and the red cone shape represents the piece of material that will be inlaid into the hole. As you can see, the cone fits tightly into the hole with absolutely no gaps. So we already know how to create the hole with a core drill, so now we just need to figure out how to make a cone shape that will fit tightly into that. So here's our last Intarsia. Since we already know how to drill the hole, I went ahead and completed that. I decided to use a smaller core drill this time also, as the Intarsia is a bit narrower than the previous one. The hole ended up being almost 8 millimeters in diameter. For the inlay piece, we'll be using a blue chatoyant synthetic material that's sort of like opal but more like Victoria stone. Next, a chunk of the blue material was cut off with the trim saw. It's important to make sure the size of the piece is sufficiently larger at this point than the hole it will eventually be inlaid into. Then we center and attach the piece to a dop with super glue. I prefer using a nail for the dop rather than a wooden stick. Since the next step is to put the dop into a drill chuck, the metal nail is considerably stronger than the wood. The metal dop is loaded into the chuck of the hand drill. I prefer a hand drill with a speed control, and I rarely run at a high speed. It really ends up being a matter of preference and what you are comfortable with, as some use hand drills and others use Fordham flex shafts or Dremels. Next, turn on your grinder, make sure you have water. You can use a Genie or a Pixie or any other wheel grinder, or even a flat lap. I generally prefer to use the 220 grit wheel, but the selection might depend upon the hardness or the fragility of the material you're grinding. Then turn on your drill and very slowly begin to approach the grinding wheel at a narrow angle sufficient to achieve the tapered shape of the cone. This will make sense as you get closer to the wheel. It's important to brace or support your drill hand so it doesn't get moved around, especially in the initial steps when you're rounding off the square edges. Also, as you get closer to your ideal cone shape, Be careful not to let your hand or the drill come in contact with any of the adjacent wheels. Looks like we have a good fit, so we'll now remove the cone from the dop. I use the trim saw for this by cutting the cone away from the nail head. You can also use a small torch to carefully heat the metal nail shaft to soften the glue. Then wiggle the cone free as the glue softens. If the cone material is heat sensitive, for example precious opal, you can wrap it with a strip of wet paper towel to minimize the heat transfer. With the cone now free from the dop, it's time to mix and apply epoxy and then insert the cone tightly into the hole. After the inlay circle is glued in, it's time to prepare the backing. Once again, we're using basanite or black basalt for a backing. Grind one side of the backing flat and grind the back side of the Intarsia flat and get ready to glue them up with epoxy. As soon as the epoxy cures, we'll grind and polish this and we'll be done with it.
Dude, that's great. That's great. You also got your humor in there. You're like mixing in all your humor, the text, which is cool. So we got some questions, and let me pull it up. So Richard was asking, when does next year's class season start? Richard, you should do it this year.
Sorry. I want to say, well, this year it started April 3rd. So whatever that first week of April is, I can look it up.
Yeah, so beginning of April. But
Yeah.
Richard, Richard's an awesome dude. You really want to try to get him to be an instructor. I'm just telling you. He's doing some really cool sculpture stuff, and we'll be doing some more webinar stuff with him. He's really good at a lot of processes. He'd be an awesome dude. Okay. So just so you know.
I'm always looking for something new. So.
And then Johnny was wondering, do you have online classes? Because he's got a lot of stuff going. But Johnny, you could drive from Ohio to Georgia and you could be there super easy. But I know a week out when you guys are hustling with your business, I get it. Johnny's a good dude. Do you guys have any online classes at all?
We did a few in the off season. It's something we're looking into. We've talked about maybe allowing an online option where you could monitor a class for the week and just pop in and out when you wanted to and stuff like that for a smaller fee. But as of now, right now, it's I don't know, we go back and forth because one of the things about the school is the uniqueness and the on hand, the hands-on and so.
I tell you,
Yeah.
there's no substitute to putting your hands on the stuff and working on the stone and having guidance while you're doing it. That's how you really accelerate your learning.
Yeah.
And you make a lot of contacts. You're with like-minded people for a week. A lot of the stuff I learned as a student was outside of the classroom, just talking with people at night and all of that kind of stuff. So,
Yeah, and hanging out. I mean, for you, Johnny, it's like that's a short drive from Ohio. Johnny's got he's got one of those putting together the Serious Dream Studio as well. So a serious dude.
And we do a tailgating on every Thursday night where the students can put their stuff out and sell. And so a lot of times, students, they make back more than what they spent for the week. And they make contacts and things like that, for their products and finding things or selling things. So it's got that social side too.
Yeah, no, it's good. Paul had a question on the drill, and I know he posted this when we were drilling. How fast are you turning that drill chuck when you're drilling? Bill, do you have any idea?
No, I sure don't. Just fast. I think
You're
that's
putting
what's,
it like the belt's at the fastest speed. I assume that's a multi-speed like belt.
yeah, it is, but that one also has a potentiometer on it, so you can make it.
Dial it in.
Yeah. So I used to run them real slow, and then I think I got told that it really needs to go fast. So I've not done any studies on it. So, but
yeah.
Well, little diamond tools like to run fast.
Okay. That's kind of what I've been told.
Yeah. And I assume when you're coming through, you're backing off your pressure. It'd be exciting when it grabs the piece and spins, right? When you're coming through.
Well,
That's why I said
I'm backing off generally to make sure that water gets in there and,
Right.
and that the debris gets out.
Gotcha.
Got to keep it cool.
And then Nancy had a question. What is the material under the abalone in the drill press? So like you were sitting on something. Like what was that?
It was probably, it was just a piece of just some junk material I had laying around
So
that
it's
I
a hard
wasn't afraid.
surface. You got some kind of material underneath.
Yeah, so
there.
it just supports the piece.
Yeah, in a wood shop, in your shop, you would put an old chunk of 2x4 or something behind it so that you wouldn't worry about.
Right. And then Larry Ott was asking off of YouTube, where do you get the basinite? What are some of your sources for that?
Well, actually, one of the best news sources is going to be our friends Cindy and Lois from California.
Oh, yeah.
In fact, the good thing about them is that they will slice and dice them for you. The other place that I buy my rough is this Rare Rocks and Gems. I think that's the website. That's the people they sell the dead camel jasper, and I usually buy a bucket.
Is that Philip Stevenson?
I don't know their names, but they're very well known. I always buy a bucket of basinite from them when I'm at quartzite. So
yeah,
that'll last me a year.
Yep. Well, I mean,
but it's just it's just a basalt, and it comes from somewhere in California.
Okay. Yeah. Well, Cindy and Lowe's would be great sources. I'd love to get them on these webinars. We've known them for years. Well, one of the people were asking about the machine, like where can I get a Intarsia machine? Do you want to just pop up a little bit of what we've been working on together?
A little teaser.
Well, let's talk a little bit. So there's two main people who really been involved with the whole conception of the Intarsia machine. One was Richard Kors, correct?
Yeah. Yes.
And he passed away. He did an 8-inch machine. And then there's Al Sassona, who is I just talked to him today. He's 95, going to be 96. And he's the guy that was really behind what is known
Defining
as the Intarsia machine.
Yeah.
And of course, you know, I've been talking to him. We're going to get on the call because he's got he's got energy. He's 95. That guy has got energy and he's sharp as a whip. So, so we're going to talk next week. There's one right there. So that's his machine. That's the machine that Al came up with.
And you can sometimes find them on, you know, just put a search out there, and, you know, they're all lapidary people. They're crazy. They buy all kinds of machines and they put them in their garage and they don't use them. And so they're around.
No, they don't do that. I can't imagine
too many tools. Can't have too many tools.
John, show a little bit of preview what you're doing, because you're going into production, what, in a week or two? What's your window on that, when that's
I'm
finished?
probably
You got the lighting thing, I think. The
I'm
other
probably
thing
about a week and a half. So
Okay.
I'll just share my screen here. So basically what I did is I took the concept, which is actually, this is a concept that's a combination of Richard's ideas and Al's ideas. And then I basically made it so it's a little bit more user-friendly and adjustable. So I made the water shield so you can take the top of the water shield off to change your disc really easily. I integrated the working table into the framework. This whole thing is 304 stainless steel, and so is the work table stainless. And then it's set up so you can fixture onto the table, and I'll be offering all kinds of fixtures for doing, and like if you want to make boxes or more complicated shapes, that we can accommodate that too. But as you can see, it's a simple machine, but it's you know, all about how you build it and package it so it's affordable and it will last a long time.
Yeah, and this will be a couple of the changes we're doing. So we're doing a sealed motor on these. That's one of the things that we're not keen on water with, like
Yeah,
open
it's a
motors.
TEFC motor. And then I built the carrying handle into it so you can put Richard wants the first one. I'm going to do a short run. I'll show you the other machine. So I did this is what I do on my birthday. So I took a birthday weekend and I designed these two machines. So the 6-inch one, obviously your pieces would be smaller on this. If you are doing really small Intarsias, this machine's perfect for that. And the 8-inch one will just give you more working space.
Mm-hmm.
The cost difference will be a little bit. 6 inches less material in it, but it's not a huge driver.
And are you doing these quarter horsepower? I mean, I think you're
putting quarter horse. Yeah, I'm putting quarter horse. Actually, no, I got half. I put half horse on this. I hate machines that you lean into them and they go, near. I hate that. I want to be able to lean into it and just feed the whole stone in if I really wanted to, because the machine should never slow down when you're grinding on a little piece like this. So I put half horsepower. There's who said the second? Was that Matt?
I don't know, somebody. But
right now I'm not doing them variable speed, because variable speed means I got to go to a completely different motor type and add a controller and add cost. So I may come out with a variable speed version later. I really wanted to get this product to, you know, availability quick, so people can be using it and making great pieces.
Show the drain. The drain is cool, because this is actually
the drain.
The
drain is like, okay, me and drains, I hate small drains. So what I did is I integrated the drain. This is very similar to how I do the C8 drain. And you just run a piece of hose, comes out the back. It's not in your way. And then if you look inside, like if you have to clean this machine out, the machine should be easy to clean. So you take the top cover off, you take your plate off, And here you're looking down inside the box. The drain's got a big old area to come in.
So
And, you know, there really isn't too much to clean out. You can pour a cup of water down there and rinse all your sludge out, and, you know, it's pretty easy.
and then it's going to be beefy. Like this is because we can casting. This is going to be brushed stainless steel. And are you going to integrate lighting in there? Or are you still playing around with the lighting?
I'm integrating some lighting into it. Yeah.
So you're doing LED, kind of like taking the idea that, you know, that concept that Richard had and figuring out how to integrate
Yeah,
that.
I'm actually looking at making it so it attaches into this top cover, but low voltage,
Right.
so it, you know, isn't ever an issue
Yeah.
getting water on it.
Jack's there in bed. He's watching, dude. And Jack, we need to do the templates. Like we're go on that. We just got to get the CAD files. And when you get better there, let's go.
All right, so there you go. There's a preview. I'm going to start cutting metal here pretty soon and build some of these. And I think that you guys are all going to really like.
And really, one of the things we really want to do is like, you know, both Richard Kors and Al Sassona, like for Al, like Al did some amazing stuff. He did the automatic pancake flipping machine, and he was on like television shows and that. He's a real amazing inventor. And really a lot of our approach is when somebody like that does stuff like this is extending his legacy. He's pretty excited because he's like, I want this thing to continue on. Same thing like we did with Messner with Highland Park. Like, you know, Messner, when he came up with the Highland Park stuff in 1946, we support machines going back to 1946 in Highland Park, because if you can get the right part, you can make it work. So we're very, very keen on like taking the legacy and building on the shoulders of the people that really, you know, did a lot of innovation. And of course, Al was pretty excited about that when I talked to him today. I just sent him the tour of the factory, John. I know he's going to like that.
Yeah.
And Bill, you guys got to help him get on Zoom so we can get him on a Zoom call. So
Yeah, you give me a challenge there, bud.
I gave you a challenge. I mean, he's pretty technical. He can do Gmail. I'm sure he can do Zoom. Click the link and then just talk him through it.
Yeah.
So, well, guys, put two things. If you like this and if you're getting learning out of this thing, give us a good review. Give us a 5-star Google review. This is great. I like it because that helps us. And then the other thing is subscribe to the YouTube channel. These videos are going up on the YouTube channel. They're going to be seen by hundreds of people. That's part of why we answer the questions live, because they can't see the chat on YouTube. We want people to have value in the learning, because not everybody can make the calls. And then put up the William Holland School of Lapidary. We're going to be having some other instructors be doing stuff as well. And this is a terrific value for you to really dramatically extend your capabilities. If you're cutting for money, Johnny, this is a good place to go and learn a lot of technique and be able to find ways of refining. And if you're just doing lapidary for fun, great place to go. So definitely, you know, you can photograph, go to the YouTube channel there. We're going to help them get more videos up there, but also follow them on Instagram, Facebook. Definitely check out the programs. The programs are absolutely terrific and really quality people. And you saw the background that Bill had earlier. I think that was in the spring in Georgia. It's a gorgeous area. So you're really going to probably one of the most beautiful places in the country.
That's along the path just beyond the campground where a lot of people go out and just take a break, and that was spring wildflowers. Yeah. Let me offer up a shameless plug here. This is an excellent book. If I do say so myself, but the key thing is that besides being a valuable piece of information, every dollar that comes from it goes to the school.
Right. So you're contributing to the whole mission of the school. Put the link up on that book again, guys. where they can get the book. I know you can get the, somebody is asking when she comes to class, can she get the book at the school? I assume you'll have books there at the school as well, Bill?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So,
She's got a supply of them there, and you can order them from the publisher.
yep. So really, really great stuff and just amazing stuff. And so I definitely encourage you, if you want to learn this, the guy is here. He's like the guy to be able to learn Intarsia from. And you've had some great mentors yourself. And that's really a lot of what we're working to do with the webinars is give you information, whether it's marketing information. And yes, we're going to be doing a marketing webinar coming up here because I know a lot of you want us to do marketing and really help crack that nut in sales. But also, techniques, polishing, grinding. I think I saw Dan Wiggins on here. I mean, Dan also I think Dan's going to head to India and he may bring back some interesting things as well. So we really want to have this be valuable for you as a resource for your creativity and for your arts, whether it's, business, whether you're doing just for fun. So, and Bill, thank you so much. You over-delivered big time.
As always.
Well, I appreciate that. I thank you for everything you've done. You got a dynamite team there. I really enjoyed seeing how they sliced and diced those videos.
Oh yeah. They work.
Nice
And of course
job.
you saw them doing all the cake thing too. I mean, they just do all kinds of great stuff. Good team.
Yeah. And thank you, John, for what you're doing on that new machine.
Yeah. Hey, so I was thinking, Sherman, that because there's obviously some interest in the new machine. So let's offer a deal. I don't have the pricing yet, but I'll do like a 10% less on the machine for anybody that's on the webinar. So basically for the people that are like asking the question, I want to find out when the machine's available, just talk to the staff and you can get yourself on the list. And basically if you are on this webinar, you want to, just tell
you're going to immediately get a deal. So just, ping the,
so what we offer it to, what we're going to put it up on the website at, you guys will get it at 10% less than that because you joined us on this webinar and spent the time with us. Right.
No, absolutely. Yeah, that's a great idea, John. That's perfect. All right, guys. Well, let's wrap it up for anything else, Bill?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I really appreciate what you've done, as you say, to promote Al's legacy. That's a very compassionate thing you're doing there.
Well, it's the right thing to do.
It is. Well, yeah.
Well, and he's done some really amazing stuff. We're all going to end up, hopefully, kind of like Al, live a long time and then have people pick up a torch that we carried for a number of years and take it to the next level.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Well, we sent him this, he'll be 96, I think, next week. His birthday's imminently coming around. I'm going to go down, have lunch with him. He's like, I know the restaurant we're going to have luncheons. I gotta figure out when to get down to Florida to see him.
He takes everybody there.
What's that? He invites everybody there. Oh, you
good seafood.
Yeah, it's seafood. Yeah. So, but one of the things we're really, for us, it's a real important ethic. Highland Park is the legacy that John and I are working to build. We want to invigorate and massively grow the lapidary hobby, whether it's people's interest in it, whether it's their participation, whether they're just a buyer, like they like to buy beautiful things. A lot of people don't know that the things can be made out of stone. And so for us, it's really our ethic to really spread this. Our mother really influenced us because she'd worked early on in her life in the USGS, United States Geological Society. So she had an affinity to rocks. So it's this legacy of, collecting rocks, traveling around the country, really getting the bug, and then making machines and cutting rocks. Like for us, we're working to produce a legacy that goes far beyond our life. And that's why the machines that we build them really with an aim of having multiple lifetimes of use, not just a piece of plastic thing that you use and you dispose of. For us, that's just is not right. So
that's kind of the what Highland Park's been all about all the years. I mean, people are using those 40 and 50-year-old machines.
More.
Well,
I mean, we support machines that are over 60 years old.
Machines out there 67 years old.
Yep.
Wow.
And we make
One other
armor.
thing I'd like to acknowledge and thank your buddy Jack King for getting all this rolling.
Yeah, Jack, who's in bed right now, not feeling so good. He's going to be well here soon. And Jack, yes, thank you very much, because he's really been the driver to really get, us hooked up and doing things together with the school. So we're super excited to go. And I'm super excited to go down to the school with my daughter and actually study with you guys.
Yeah.
So
Looking
Yeah,
forward
awesome.
to it.
cool. All right, y'all. Well, you all have a great evening. Thank you very much for coming, and we'll be here next week. What's coming up for next week? Who's going? Or somebody, my team hadn't told me what. I know there's more webinars coming up.
I'm interested.
We got another one coming. I just don't know what it is. So there is another webinar next week. So be tuned for that.
Bill
You'll be
and
seeing it coming
Christine,
up in the
thanks-
market.
Thanks again very much. And
Yeah.
we really appreciate you guys spending the time with us, and look forward to doing something else in the future. I'm sure there's going to be some more opportunities.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Cool.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Take
All
care.
right.
Good night.
Bye, folks. See you, everybody.
Bye now.